Welcome back to the Worthy Woman podcast with Aston Simmons. Today, I have a beautiful guest, the beautiful Beck Thompson, who is a dating and relationship coach working with singles and couples to help them with their relationships to find love, keep love, and refine love. I am so excited to have this conversation because I was just sharing with Beck that I tend to share a lot on being in a relationship or being a worthy woman, but not necessarily for the single ladies. So for all my single ladies listening, I've been listening to you. I've been getting your requests to do an episode for the singles. So this episode is for the single ladies. If you are in a relationship, as always, you will get value from this as well. We're going to be diving into self-worth, boundaries, how to communicate that, and so much more in this really beautiful chat. So before we dive too deep, I just want to hand it over to the beautiful Beck to share a bit more about her and what she does, so you can get to know her, and then we will dive in.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, first off. It's really cool to be here and to connect, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from you too. So hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and to chat to you all. I am personally a mum of one little boy who is almost 4, Flynn. We live down the south coast of New South Wales. We moved out of the city 2 years ago, which is wild. And we love it because it's so relaxed and chilled. I don't know if anyone's moved from a big city to a smaller town, but it's more my style. Although I'm going back to Sydney this week because I love the hustle and bustle as well. And I'm just super passionate about exactly what you said. I love helping people find love and to like in particular with today's topic, diving into that self-worth and boundaries. It's so cool when I see women implement that and notice the change in themselves and the response they get from people and seeing them grow into a worthy woman, which is what your stuff is all about. So it's really cool.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to connect as well. And I absolutely love what you do. And it works beautifully with what I do as well. And I absolutely love that. And I can definitely relate. I moved from the city to a town. I live down south of Perth, in a small town, for the same reason. Like, I love that energy of the city, like for a little while, but mostly I really enjoy the relaxed vibes of, country towns closer to the beach. It's just a more chilled energy. So I was like, yes, I feel you on that.
That's really cool. We're in alignment with that.
Yes, definitely. So I'm really excited for this conversation because exactly what you said, and we were talking off air before we press record, and there's something that shows up a lot for women, whether they're in a relationship or not. And we were talking about how women either go from one extreme to the other. So they're either boundaried up, they've got all these walls, all this armor. They're really strong in themselves, they're really assertive, and they can, really get very clear with their boundaries, but they're kind of using their boundaries as walls. And, what I hear sometimes is things like, this is my boundary, you can't cross that, and kind of just trying to push people away with their boundaries. And to me, it's very much like they're using their boundaries as an external protection rather than an internal, decision from themselves, where they're actually making that commitment to that boundary within themselves first. And I think there's a lot of confusion around that with boundaries. So I'd love to dive into that and make it really clear for women, because on the other spectrum, like we said, there's women who were raised as people pleasers, and they don't use their voice. They don't say yes. They don't say no. They don't honor their truth and what they feel. And it kind of feels like women are in this black and white experience when it comes to boundaries. There's either, so many boundaries, there's so many walls. Men often say to me they feel like they can't reach those women and they struggle with vulnerability. And then there's this other side where there's women who just feel like they're literally laying down like a doormat and just surrendering to whatever the experience is and not using their voice. So like we said, there is this gray area, and we need to learn how to play with the gray in the middle, because I know for me, I had to learn how to do that, how to communicate my boundaries, but first get clear on what they were within me and for me to embody those. So yeah, I'd love to dive into that because I know you've experienced the same with women as well.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was thinking it's like both of them are really wanting the same thing. Like they're wanting
Yes.
respect and love, and you're just not going to get it by either of those avenues because it is that armor. Like it's going into like and can you imagine, I remember being this course once and he said, can you imagine like two people with armor on like trying to connect, like clink clink clink, like it's never
Yes.
going to work. You're never going to be able to get close. So boundaries aren't wall. Boundaries are simply just like communicating, this is what I need and want, and this is what I'm okay with and not okay with. That's it. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be like you can't come in here if and I always say to my clients, give people a chance, right? Like tell them what your boundary is. And if how they respond to that says everything. It's
Yeah.
not that they didn't respect in the first place. They didn't know what it was. Like everyone has
Yes.
very different ideas of what's okay and not okay. So communicate that. If they say like, oh, forget that, I'm not going to, the example I always use with dating is when they go into a date and someone says like, hey, love, or hey, doll, as Aussie men love to do. And some women aren't comfortable with that. So, if you said, my name's Beck, I'd like you to call me by my name. And they said, oh, I was just joking, whatever, don't take it so seriously. That's them not respecting your boundary. If they went, oh gosh, of course, I didn't even realize you like to be called Beck, like
Yes.
it's what I do with everyone. It's two very different responses, but that's going to show you where you need to go next, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. That is so true. And I love what you said by giving them a chance, because this even happens in relationships. Because I like to share that in relationships, we're constantly recreating it, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. I've been with my husband for 20 years. We are not the same people we were when we got engaged, when we got married, when we had kids. We're just not. It's not possible. We're meant to evolve. But so my boundaries kept changing as I changed. So I still had to learn how to get clear on what I was available for, and then learn how to communicate that to my husband. But like you said, that it's about you communicating what you need. It doesn't need to be, I think what it comes across a lot of the time is, you are not allowed to do this. Do not do this. Do not talk to me like this. Like a set of rules of how
Yes.
you need to interact with me.
Yes.
But I love how you said that it's really more about you deciding how you want to experience, your relationship or this connection, and you just being clear about communicating that. And you can do that kindly, like clear communication can be kind.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a fight or defensive.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I'm constantly saying is like be firm and kind. Like you
Yeah.
can still have kindness in there and it still can have a softness about it, but it's still firm. Like being blunt isn't, and this is the opposite end where you have people who are used to people pleasing. When they go to put boundaries in place and they go to be firm or blunt, they're like, that's rude. Because someone's
Mm.
told them that the way they communicate that is rude. So I can't be rude. I can't have anyone think that I'm being rude to them. And that's not what it is. You're just being clear. Just be really clear. And this is like the whole other thing with boundaries is that you have to be clear. You have to be clear. You have to be consistent, because it's not just about putting that boundary in place and then going, okay, done it. They're going to respect me. Everything's good. Like people forget, like we're humans and like we're just doing our best. So people might slip up again. And that's okay. It just depends on, again, what your boundary is around that. Are you going to give them another go? I don't know. Do you normally give people lots of goes, or do you not give them enough goes? It's
Yeah.
yeah, really, really interesting.
It does always come back to us, doesn't it? Like it is a question of like, how am I teaching them to
Yeah.
treat me, basically?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because
And
that's what we're doing.
and I love what you said before about like you can't control them, right? So you can
Mm,
tell them what you want, and then it's not up to you to go, stop speaking to me like that. I'm not going to allow it, or I'm going to, just leave. Like you have the option to walk away and leave in that moment. You can say, what I said to a client yesterday was, it's with his ex-wife, and I said, you need to be really firm with these boundaries now. So it needs to be like, if you're going to speak to me like that, I'm going to end the conversation. Next minute, if she keeps going, I'm going to hang up the phone now.
yeah.
Like just really, it doesn't need to be like, how dare you do that, blah, blah, blah. You're just
Yes.
going to get into another emotional argument about it.
Yes. And you're so right. When we get the emotions in it, it spirals.
Mm.
So I often, like you will say to clients, take space.
Mm.
Like it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take space. Sometimes it's the best thing for you to do. Go and regulate yourself. Go and breathe. Go and walk on the grass. Like go and process what you're feeling and then come back. And that can be so powerful. I think sometimes we get stuck in no, I need to fix it now, or, we need to keep talking about it, but that isn't always the answer. And I know women sometimes struggle with this. And I had to learn that it's okay to have space, and that actually it can be really helpful sometimes if we just have a bit of space and then come back. If I know I have a lot of women who actually struggle to know what they need. So they don't know what their needs are. So that's often the first bit we need to work on. Once they get clear on it, then there's often this, there can be a bit of an anxiety or fear around communicating that need. And again, it's just because it's new. They haven't, they may have lived 30, 40 years of not communicating what they need. But how do you kind of talk through or help women to feel that safety within themselves to be able to communicate it, really regardless of what the response is? Because like I say to women all the time, yes, we want that response, but more than anything, it's about meeting yourself in that moment and actually you being in your boundary. Because like you said, their response will really tell you the next step anyway.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I just interviewed someone for my podcast and we spoke about this very topic as well. And what we spoke about was that, a lot of the time women have been told that they're being too needy for having those needs, or it's too much, or it's just the other person's uncomfortable with your emotions or your needs. So they're saying, I'm not okay with this, but that's not how they put it across. It's so there's something wrong with you. So of course there's hesitance to share your needs or to do it. And really the only way I know to do it is to practice, and maybe practice small and see the response, and practice with someone who is safer, that you maybe, I don't want to say is going to give you the response that you want, but you kind of have to change that story around, like, when I express my needs, this is the response I get. Because probably right now it's when I express my needs, no one cares, or, I'm too needy and, I'm fine on my own. I often have that, I can handle it. Don't worry, I'm strong. I don't need anyone else, and that's okay, sure. But, it's nice to be able to say what you need and get it respected as well. So, and it's the same with boundaries. Boundaries are not, if you have never, particularly with people that know you, the first time you implement a boundary to change something that hasn't been done before, quite often people are like, whoa, what's this? You're changing the dynamic of how our relationship was, and I'm not okay with this. So I'm going to, buck up against it. That doesn't mean you change the boundary.
Yes. It doesn't mean it's wrong.
No, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they need space to you're changing things, and that's okay. And so just get really clear on what your needs are, and then just practice putting them into place. And maybe, with dating, it doesn't, like, when you first start dating and you haven't done that, maybe it's like an experimental phase of, like, let me try and assert my needs, see how it goes down. If they don't respect it, then that's okay. See you later. If they do, cool. I've had that experience where they do. But it's more important that you walk away from those that don't respect your needs than just letting it happen. Oh, well, I tried it and it didn't, back to the same pattern.
Yes, 100%. It is. It's the action, it's the doing. And yes, it's uncomfortable. That's when we grow. And I think that's why I like to say, well, more than just putting it all on being attached to the feedback from the person and their response, notice how you feel. Because I know when I put in a boundary, I actually respect myself more.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and I feel
have that
more.
at times. People feel stronger. Like,
yes.
I did.
And you're increasing your self-worth, your self-esteem, your confidence. So sometimes that's the feedback that you need to focus on, that internal feedback rather than the external, which I think is really important. Something else that has just popped up in my mind that I know I've worked with a lot of women who, have had negative experiences. Like you were talking about, you go back to the old pattern where they've had negative experiences in past relationships or past dating experiences. And then the thought of putting themselves back out there, they say a lot of what you just said. I'm strong. I don't need a man. I'm fine on my own. And we all know that. But what I share with women all the time is, what do you really want? And the desire there is to have someone to share their life with. It's not really about a need. It's not a weakness. It's more about you want to have that level of fulfillment, and, you want to share your life and share your experiences. But I know sometimes that gap, it can seem like a really big leap for them if they've had some negative experiences. So I'm sure you've experienced this with single women before because, human beings are not perfect. How do you help them, build up the courage and the confidence to take that leap?
Yeah. It's really cool. I feel like I've worked with enough single women now that I can like almost see this like pattern that happens with nearly everyone. And maybe I just get the same people going through the same stuff. But there really has to be this space first where you work on you and you get yourself to a place where you know what you need or want. You don't have to be like fully healed or whatever.
Yeah.
I
Are we
want you to
ever? Like,
exactly. Like you can jump into relate because that's where you get the feedback from another human, right? So it's necessary that you get into relationships, but know what you need or want so that that's clear. And then it's about like putting boundaries. I work with people putting boundaries in place, doing your self-worth. And then what's really cool is when they do that internal work, it reflects externally. And I literally see the change in the people that they attract in relationships growing and growing to be so different. And they're growing. It's like, it's just
yes.
really, it's all that internal work then reflects externally with, and that might sound really woo-woo, I don't know, but it's just phenomenal how I've seen this happen because I'm on the outside looking in, right? I'm not in these relationships, so I can go, wow, like this guy's such a step up in terms of how he's treating you compared to the last guy, like, and what you're putting up with is way different. And I just think every time that they're shown an example of what's possible, it expands the way they think about relationships and what is possible in a relationship. And so therefore, oh, could I have any better than this? And it's not about getting to like the ultimate pinnacle because relationships are hard, that talking about it, but
Yes.
it's about having someone who's willing to do that work with you and
Yes.
can meet you where you're at and that you deserve someone who's going to treat you with respect and kindness and love and all of that.
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said. And it's definitely not woo woo. There's so much science now to show that, you know, even our heart has its own, electric field around it. Like we are magnets. We are attracting our
Yeah.
experiences. We are creating them. It does come from us. And for some people, that's a really hard pill to swallow. And I get it. Life sometimes can feel hard and it can feel like, God, I just wish that if this could be fixed, or if I could, I hear a lot of if I could meet the right guy, or if I could just fix this in my relationship, then I'll be happy. And again, it comes back to that external. Then we're never in control. If it's always something external for us to feel that sense of happiness, we're actually not in control. So you do have to turn inwards, swallow that pill of, okay, it comes back to me. But
Yeah.
that can also be really empowering, which is what I love about taking responsibility. And like you said, doing that healing work, because none of us had the perfect childhood, or, even if it was amazing, no one comes out perfect. There's going to be challenges and lessons for everybody. And whether you learn that from a past relationship or an experience in life, you're going to learn it from somewhere. And then there's that opportunity to look at it and go, okay, well, like you said, is this my limit? Is this just my story around relationships? Or is this just, my relationship to myself, that I've had this relationship with myself that won't allow me to receive the level of love that actually is available to me when I do this work on myself? And I know that was my experience. And I hear stories from women all the time that that's their experience. And that's why I think women are so powerful, because even in a relationship, if a woman works on herself, it will shift the dynamic in the relationship.
Yeah.
And, I've had so many men reflect that back to them. And then they share with me, my husband's like, what's happened? You're so different. Like, I'm experiencing you differently. Like, this is amazing, and you can do a 360 in your relationship, and it's coming back to that internal work. So I think it's really, really empowering to take that responsibility and to decide to do that work. And I don't think it's woo-woo. I think it's really the work we're really here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you said something really important in terms of like, if you can look back on, because quite often it's difficult to do by yourself, which is why we exist doing this work, to be able to, I don't know, sit on the outside in to go, oh, look, like I remember with a client, I'd worked with her for maybe 6 months and I was like, I just don't know. I was stuck. I was like, why is she not attracting any people. And then we had this session once, and it was like this giant light bulb went off, and it was to do with the boundaries, which I thought she was really great at, but it was to do with boundaries and self-worth. And it was almost like she was invisible. And ever since then I was like, whoa, this was it, so I think looking back at if you feel like you want to do some work for yourself, try and figure it out, and you don't want to work with someone else, look back on the patterns that have happened in relationships, like mark down all the relationships you've had, all the similarities that you can see between them, because I can guarantee you there'll be a thread of some sort that ties them together, and that's the key to the work.
Yeah, 100%. There's always a pattern, always, in a relationship or not. Like life is constantly showing us, and sometimes we're just not willing to look at it. And that's exactly like you said. That's why having someone else to speak it out loud with, you can have those light bulb moments and those breakthroughs where you realize, okay, that's where I've been limiting myself. And it's so important because, like we were talking off air, a lot of this starts in childhood. Like, a lot of women who are struggling to get into a relationship, I know I hear from women that they feel like, what's wrong with me? Am I broken? What's missing? And if you look back, they often came from very difficult upbringings, whether it was divorce or violence in the home, or, some really horrific experiences that do shape us. And, and I feel for those women who then doubt whether they're worthy of a relationship. And that is definitely not true. Everybody is worthy. It's got nothing to do with that. But I'm sure you've experienced some women who have had those experiences. How do you help them build that self-worth to be able to, have the courage, because it takes a lot of courage to lean into a relationship, especially after, negative experiences. And, I know we talked about doing the healing work, but around the self-worth, what do you really share with them to help them remember that they're worthy of getting into a relationship?
Yeah, I think even if people, because quite often I get women that have got every other area of their life together, that may be really successful in business or career, or great friends and family, they got money, they travel, like their life feels together, but they're missing this one piece. And so there's nothing wrong with them in terms of relation. If they could do all those other things, they can do that.
Yes.
So quite often it's like, well, there's no difference here. Like it's just that you
Yes.
haven't prioritized it a lot of the time. Like maybe you've been really focused on career, or maybe you've really and now's the time that you focus on this. And I think a lot of the time it's like, this might sound rude, but like you're not special. There's nothing different about you in terms of I had a client who was like, she imagined that there was this circle of people and all of her friends, because they were all married, having kids, blah, 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 which is quite often the age of my clients. She was on the outside of this circle. So we literally just worked on how do you open the gap of that door? How can you get into that circle? Because you're not special. There's no reason why you need to be on outside of that circle. Yes, you're special, you're amazing, but there's nothing different or unusual about you that means that you're going to be the last fruit. That's what I hear all the time. I'm going to be the last fruit left on the tree, or the one left on the shelf, or all of these sayings. So it's unpacking those sayings, and also just being really curious and questioning them, because you're fulfilling that belief over and over and over. The more you say it, the more you talk about it, the more you believe it, you're just creating that pathway in your brain to be stronger and stronger and stronger. So it's up to you to go, oh my gosh, I'm thinking it again. Let's interrupt that and externalize it. It's just a thought. It doesn't have any more power than you're giving it. So that I think just be really curious about it, because it's been your story and you've attached to it, and therefore you've gotten the experiences reflecting that. So it's up to you to change that story.
Yeah. And it does come back to the stories we tell 100%, because that creates our experience and then how we feel. And like I always say to women, I love that you said get curious, because this isn't a blame thing. From women all the time, they want to blame themselves, or it's my fault. And I'm like, it's no one's fault. Literally, we just need to take responsibility just so we can respond differently. That's all it is. There's no one's right or wrong. No one's good or bad. It's none of that we were, jammed down our throats as children, and we're struggling to let go of it as adults. It's really just about, what do we want? And I love that you shared that, because get curious. If you're listening, if you're wanting to open to dating, I would just get curious, like Beck said, and just see it as an experiment. I mean, if your thoughts about saying things like, I'm the last on the shelf and I'm the only friend, all my other friends have kids, all of that, if all those stories have been a self-fulfilling prophecy, why not experiment with the opposite? Why not tell a story that actually you are it's your turn next? What if it's my turn next? What if you've been working on yourself and the guy that you've been looking for is just around the corner? And what if that single time is actually a gift? Because I've been in a relationship a long time. And I often share with women that that's not necessarily the best path for everybody. I had to work through a lot of codependencies that I had to break up with my husband, because we had been together through so many stages of life. So, looking back, I wouldn't necessarily recommend finding a partner young and going on that journey, because not every partner is willing to take that journey, because there's a lot of work involved in that. Sometimes I think it's actually better, like you said, to do the work on ourselves, actually get clear about what you want, have that time to, fulfill your own desires selfishly. Women really struggle with this. Be selfish, do the things that matter to you, that you really love, because like we know, once you are in a relationship and you have children, you have other priorities, other things come into play that you do need to consider. And it makes it, not impossible, but a little bit harder to selfishly choose what you want. So, I think also changing your relationship to being single, does it have to be negative? Like, I don't think so. I think, I'm not dismissing that it can be lonely. And, if it's been, 3, 4, 5 years, you might be ready, but also that it can be a beautiful gift as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I quite often say to women, like, people often say, I hate the dating apps when I get off. Well, get off the apps, like whatever.
Yes.
The only way to meet people. But if you are going to go on, I need you to have the mindset that like, oh, I'm excited. I wonder who could be on there next. And the same, like, I literally put a post on my Facebook once because I was running this group program for single women, and they were all like, oh, it's really hard to meet people. And people from like really rural areas to really big city areas. And because they were stuck in like, I'm on the apps, right? So I put a post on my Facebook page, and I said, where did you meet your partner? And like hundreds of people wrote, and the vast difference, like I ran into them at the park, I met them at a service station, I met them through a friend on a dating app, many, many different ways, but there isn't one way to meet someone. So I literally need you to be like open and go like, when I leave the house today and I walk through this park, I could meet my potential partner, just be the experience that like magical things happen anywhere and you could meet that person absolutely anywhere. But if you are closed, I can guarantee you will walk around a bit like that armor. No one will see you because you're just, those people who get asked for the time, get asked a question because they're open. They're the ones that they're closed and they don't approach me. I'm not approachable. So just be really clear that you're ready and you're open for love and, see what comes.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I do think in this modern world of social media, people think there's only one way to meet someone, and it's become dating apps. And that isn't always the best option for everyone, especially like you said, if you have a negative relationship to it, you're not going to get a positive outcome, So you want to start with a positive, exactly what you just said, Beck. Actually go on there, be excited, be open. I know I've shared to so many women, be really honest. Don't go on there and put a filtered photo that is not you. Don't.
No one likes filters, by the way.
No.
I work with so many single men and they hate filters.
They hate it. Yes. Yes.
Same as women don't like the fish pictures, men hate the filters.
Yes, exactly. And well, the thing is, if you really want a fulfilling relationship, you need to be the truth of who you are. I remember saying to a woman once, don't get all dressed up. If that's not your vibe, if that's not your energy, dress as you would normally dress. And that was just like mind blowing to her. She was like, I can do that. I'm like, you should definitely do that. You can do that. And I would actually recommend it. I would be as you can possibly be, because if someone, this is something I'm sure you experience. For some weird reason, when people are dating, they think they need to put their best foot forward and only be their best version of themselves. Yeah. And this just blows my mind, because I then deal with them later on in the relationship and they're like, you weren't like this when I met you. I didn't know this about you. And I just think if we could be more honest and upfront from the beginning, I don't mean we have to like bring our whole, wardrobe of like baggage, but just be more truthful about who we are, dress as we would, speak as we would, communicate as we would in any other conversation. I think we would get a better outcome. And
Yeah, totally.
is that what you found?
Yeah. And do it from the beginning. Like if you're going to be on
Yeah.
the apps, be as honest as you can on your profile. Like if there's something you're really into that, I don't know, not many people are into, put it on there because that's your filter. That's your
Yeah.
ultimate first filter of when you're going to filter people out. Why on earth do we want to be like everyone else? And like, I don't know where else in the world we want to like get this filter of like 1,000 men to be like, I want everyone to like me. You're not going to date all them. Like there's
No, you only need one.
dating apps. Like just be really like I agree wholeheartedly. Just be you. Like this is like I feel like my whole work is like throw all the rules out the window. I'm sick of the dating rules. I'm sick of the way we should do things. This is what you need to say on the first date. This is when you need to sleep with someone. This is what you should when you should contact them afterwards. No, just do what you want to do and be you. Like there are no rules. And the more we try and mold into one human, it's such a strange phenomenon. Like
It is. And
I
it
don't know why
doesn't
we want to be
work.
like everyone else.
It
No, it
doesn't
doesn't
work.
work.
When you try and attract everyone, you attract no one that you
Mhm.
actually want to connect with. You know, it literally is your vibe, attracts your tribe. Like we hear that all the time. Like, there's no surprise why you connect with certain people. It's your energy, like you said, whether you're open or closed. And we've all experienced those people that we either walk past in the shop or we start a conversation with because of the energy they're putting out. So I love that. I think full permission to be yourself. And actually, that I would say that that's the key ingredient to finding your person is being truthfully who you are, connecting to your authentic self and being unapologetic about it, being showing up as who you are because that's all you can be. And that is enough. Like that 100% gets to be enough in a world that tells you you need to be all these things. I love that you said just throw the rule book out because you get to decide what those rules are. Exactly what you said. That's why you need to know what you want, what you need, what you're available for, and then learn how to communicate those boundaries because that's how you get what you want.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like in life, some other person made up these rules. Like we're all
Yeah.
living by someone's rules that someone made up hundreds of years ago and we're taking it as gospel. Like, so why don't you get to create your own rules with everything? But like in particular, who you're in relationship with and how that
Yeah.
works. Like
100%.
I just don't, and perhaps there's science around stuff and I don't care. I just want you to be you because ultimately if like the way I work with women is like, let's get you to trust your intuition, trust your gut. Because if you learn that, I don't care about the rules. I don't even care if you have a list that says this is what you want in a man. If your gut says that shouldn't be for you, you trust your gut over that list
Yeah,
always. So like if you
definitely.
can learn to trust your own intuition, then forget the rules.
Yeah, 100%. I love that you said that. I was going to say it really does come back to trusting yourself. And then once you do trust yourself, you can trust another person.
Uh-huh.
But that, and in order for them to trust you, you need to tell the truth. This is what I say to
Yeah.
couples all the time. If you want him to trust you, tell the truth. Be in integrity with who you are, what you're available for, what you're not, and you be an embodiment of that. They will trust you. But if you doubt yourself or doubt what you want or don't believe that you're worthy or deserving and you show up differently and you change yourself to try and, win the guy, that's never going to end positively. It's not going to be a good outcome for you or for them. So, yeah, so beautiful, so empowering. I'm so excited for all of the single ladies listening. I'm excited for you. Like, I really hope that listening to this episode has really helped you see that it gets to be light and fun and, actually enjoyable. I say to women all the time, sometimes they're bringing this heavy, dense, like, attached energy of like, he has to be the one. And I'm like, why do we need to bring such intense energy? That pressure just creates resistance and tension. It can be fun, it can be enjoyable, and it can just be feedback. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
mean anything about you.
Yeah. And all you like, we always get a lot of the women I work with get so far ahead of themselves. Like on the first date, they're like, okay, I need to ask if he wants children and if he's going to get, and yes, I want you to ask the hard questions, but literally all I need you to know is how did you feel when you were in that date, when you left that date? Do you want to see them again?
Yes,
Like, I don't need
that's the
to know
first
if you're
indicator.
going to marry them. Like, really?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, you've got plenty of time to work that
Yeah.
out.
So have
Definitely.
fun. You're right. Like if you're present and you have fun in the moment, like if your gut said, oh, that was horrible, I didn't like it. I mean, that's a whole other conversation around like, are you sabotaging? Is it your gut, or is it anxiety? Anyway,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's, if you can learn to differentiate the two and you feel like, oh, that was great, I want to know more, then go
Yeah.
again.
And lean into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just get curious and have fun. Oh, so exciting. I'm like excited for all these ladies. I'm living through them vicariously. I could literally chat to Beck forever because, as you can hear, we're very connected, very on the same page. I've loved sharing this episode with you, Beck. Is there anything else you'd love to share before you finish? I'm going to be putting all of Beck's links below, and she's got also a free downloadable around conflict resolution, which is amazing. So we're going to put that in the links for you as well. But is there anything else that you want to share, Beck, of, where they can find you, or any, last words of wisdom you want to share with our beautiful single lady listeners?
You can find me anywhere. My business is the Relationship Circle. I just want you to just believe in yourself and just give it a go, because like you said before, like, what's the harm? Like, if you've been doing it the other way, just do it another way and see if that works. And if not, try another way. Like, just have fun with it, and you will meet. So I can guarantee you, I've never worked with someone who hasn't met someone. You will meet someone. So
Yeah.
just be patient and just know that they're coming and they're on their way, and there's a reason it hasn't happened yet. And you will, I actually just, sorry, I'm going on a tangent now, but
No, go for it.
I just finished working with a guy who like couldn't get past these first dates, and now he's literally about to move in with his partner, and they've been together 8 months. And I remember him saying to me, it wasn't till I met her that I understood why all these other ones didn't work before. And like, I held that hope. I knew it was going to happen. Like, it's so obvious to me that it's going to happen for all of you. But for him, that was not obvious. He had done a million first dates. So like, it will happen. And
Yes.
if you don't have that hope, let one of us hold that hope for you until it
Yes.
does happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have goosebumps. I'm so glad you shared that, because that is the truth. Like, often this happens in a lot of areas of life, with parenting, with being in a relationship, like just life. Things happen in life and we can't see the reason why now. But if we can keep doing the work, keep leaning in, we eventually have that aha moment, that moment of like, oh, in hindsight, looking back, now I trust and I understand why that happened. And it is a big exercise in trusting life, trusting ourselves,
Yeah.
trusting something bigger, whatever you need to call it, for you to find that hope, like you said. And if you can't find it in somebody else, find it in someone else's journey, like some of the journeys that Beck shared. Because if it's possible for one person, it's possible for you. Like,
Yeah.
we're more similar than we realize.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for having me on.
Amazing.
This has been really cool. It's gone by in a flash.
It has. It's been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody listening, whether you're a single lady or not, if you've got value from this episode, please let me and Beck know. You can share it in your stories, share it with a friend, especially if you have a single friend that needs some hope around relationships. Please share it with them, because we all deserve love. We're all worthy. And I 100% know, I believe it so deeply, that person, your person, is just around the corner. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.